This is the Little Moments Count radio podcast, created in partnership with community radio stations throughout Minnesota. Each episode, you'll hear interviews with early childhood experts on how to support the important brain development that takes place in the first 1,000 days of life, just through little moments every day. Learn more at littlemomentscount.org/podcast.
Get up, stand up. They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hitting cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Kadagi to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we discuss local, national, Native news and events. As you know, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues. Hey, I want to just remind everyone this episode of Native Roots Radio is presented in partnership with Little Moments Count and Minnesota Public Radio. Little Moments Count is a statewide collaborative focusing on helping parents and caregivers learn about the importance of brain development in the first 3 years of life. You know, nearly 80% of the brain growth happens the first 1,000 days in small moments of interaction like talking, playing, reading, and singing help create the pathways that build a child's brain during this early stage of life. For more information, you can visit at littlemomentscount.org. Hey, we are excited, as always, to have a guest on. And Native Roots Radio is always excited to be partnering with Little Moments Count to host conversations focused on early childhood development. We have guests every other week to talk about their important and about their involvement in Little Moments Count and how they view the role of early childhood and development. I have a great guest here, and before I get with you, Tony, and have you introduce yourself, Tony's art is going to be in, Tony's games are going to be in Native Roots Trading Post at the West End Market in State Fair, and I'll be there tomorrow doing a live show, and Friday, and also be working the store with my Hinu and then my son-in-law on Friday. But I'm really excited to have Tony on and talk about his journey and how this is helping with development of our young ones that are our future. Welcome, Tony. Thanks so much for coming on.
Hey, Buju Niji, good to see you. Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me back.
Hey, right on. Hey, talk a little bit about who you are and talk a little bit about your Native Games and the name and what the whole process has been. It's been exciting for me to kind of watch this, just meeting you, I think a few years ago at the fair that you were and you just had all these people around your booth, and it was really exciting. And thank you for coming on again, and thank you for partnering with Native Roots Trading Post.
Yeah, there's always a lot of excitement around Nashke Games, and boy, we've sure made a lot of impact here in the last 2 years since we first met you. Miwa Chi-Noodin. My Ojibwe name is Chi-Noodin. Tony, I'm the founder of Nashke Native Games. Nashke in our language means like, behold, check it out, kind of see what we're doing here. Yeah, I used to work in education at the largest school district in Minnesota, in Okehennepin, and I worked with Native youth in the secondary school setting, and it was just, super excited to be able to work with Native youth and share culture and language with them. And it turns out when you teach and communicate that information on the chalkboard, it's just not very inspiring, and kids it's not really a hook for them. So, in my struggles, try to come up with a way to make it fun and make everyone want to learn. And I just stumbled on this thing that I got going on here, and it's just been a whirlwind of excitement ever since. And yeah, we're working with youth, elders, adults. Our mission is to increase awareness and empower learning of our Native culture and language through gameplay, and it happens every day here at Nashke Games.
That's awesome. And so you kind of talked a little bit about what inspired you, but I don't know if that's the right word. I think there's a need out there for community. Talk a little bit about that and the transition from your job to this, from your job in the school district to this.
Yeah, I love our community. I've worked professionally in our community my whole life. I was working at the school district, and there is a need out there, and I seen that need when I was working with our youth, and there was a opportunity that arose for me to really say, hey, you know what? I have something here, and I want to bring it to the community, and it's the Finnovation Fellowship that invests in early stage social impact entrepreneurs. So about 2.5 years ago, I applied for that, and what they did was I had the passion, I had the knowledge, but I didn't understand business. So
Mhm.
I had a 9-month program of working out, hey, this is my concept, and working out the crinks and getting it into a good place, and then launching me. So I was very fortunate to have this knowledge and then have the coaching to be able to bring this in a good way.
Wow, that is awesome. I do remember talking to you about that, and that's right. That's really important because not only having a great idea, but being able to pay taxes and things like that. That for me, it was like, oh, I think Square automatically pays those, don't they? And then you find out, well, I owe this money here, so it's a good idea to get these classes because you end up learning the hard way, like I did.
Definitely, definitely.
So, hey, let's talk about some of the games and how does playing games really contribute to a child's development, and strengthening the culture identity. That's you talked about hooking them with the games. Well, let's talk a little bit about what that does for them.
Yeah, the games are really just meant to be the catalyst. The games are to have fun. And when we learn through joy, if it's games, crafts, music, we're 95% more likely to retain the things that we learn. And the games are the catalyst to talk about the language, to talk about the culture, to tell the stories. And we do that every day. So we have two different types of games. We have what we call reimagined traditional games. These are the games our people have been playing for hundreds and hundreds of years. We do a little twist on it, make it a little more contemporary, and it takes away those cultural protocols. And then we have some contemporary games like classics like Go Fish, but we call ours
Mhm.
Beneshiug, and it's all about our winged relatives. And we provide the context to play the whole game in Ojibwe with one sentence. You can play and learn about right now 24 different birds in Ojibwe through that one game.
Wow, I was just going to ask you, can you talk about some of the success stories and that's it to see that come back at you. Is there any more that you can think of off the top of your head that what you've taught has come back to you, and you've noticed that they're learning and they're learning in a good way?
Yeah, we see success stories every event, every day we do it. We see success stories, and we really originally launched really for our Native community, but boy, where we're really seeing that impact is in the non-Native community and wanting to learn and wanting to teach, but not knowing how. And our games have proven to be super easy for educators. So we do a lot of services as well, working with
Mhm.
educators, working with programs, working directly with students. One educator told me one time she worked directly with Native youth, and they were playing one of our reimagined traditional games in the entryway of the school with her students. And the next thing she turned around and there was like 40, 50 students from the whole school, Native and non-Native, cheering in and playing. And it just created a lot of Indigenous awareness, if not pride, in that specific instance. And we get reached out all the time with stories about, hey, I remember hearing the story my grandparents told me, and when you were explaining your game, it came out. And I'll see kids in the public all the time, and they're like, "Oh, I remember you from our school. We had so much fun playing the moccasin game." And so there's just success story after success story.
Well, we're going to take a break here in about 30 seconds. I'm wondering if you could get your website and address out there, and we'll bring that a couple times because we know people are driving in their car, and we have relatives that download the show and listen to it later. So give your website, please, and how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah. My contact is all over my website. It's www.nashke.com. And if you want to see all the work that impact that we're having, you can check us out on our Facebook at just Nashke. And you can send me an email, and we can do any kind of communication that you want.
Awesome. Hey, we're here with Tony Drews, the founder of Nashke Native Games, and we're going to be right back and talk a little more. This is Native Roots Radio.
Oh, this is Dallas Goldtooth, and you're listening to the Native Roots Radio. Hoka, hicha, wecha.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, welcome back, everyone. We're here with Tony Drews, founder of Nashke Native Games, and we're really talking about how this not only helps brain development, because we're lifelong learners, and the young ones are in school are still learning and their brains developing, and we talk a lot about that about our really, really young ones. But this has got to be something you mentioned earlier about people seeing the game being played, or our allies or non-native people, and coming around and watching the excitement and excuse me, and the pride of the game players and the natives that are around there must just be like tremendous, and help with many things like self-esteem and self-care and self-worth.
Yeah, and it's like a secondary reason that we decided to do what we do. And like we also have a catalog of greeting cards that we have. And the reason behind all of this was to show Indigenous voices in these spaces. When young Native kids go to Games by James, before we started, they didn't see their culture represented in any of the games. But now James by Games carries our stores, and they walk in there and they see their culture represented, and it makes them feel good. So that's a secondary reason of us doing this, is to booster that Native pride. And by sharing the culture and the language within the games, students feel that in themselves, and it strengthens their identity. So it's circular, and it's a wonderful thing that's been happening here.
Wow. And when you develop your games, how much is let's say, how much are elders involved with that development, or being able to hand down a lot of the games, or be there and you can talk to them about, is this appropriate that we do this kind of game this way? How much do elders are involved with your production part?
Well, it's a huge part. Elders, community members, Native artists. We work with community members to develop all of our games. But most importantly, so I was talking about our reimagined traditional games. Those traditional games carry a lot of protocols to them. The moccasin game that we're going to be at the state fair on the 24th for Indigenous Peoples Day, and we're going to be sharing the moccasin game with community. But that game, traditionally, women don't play that game. But when I was working with students, out of the 150 students that I had, maybe one or two have heard of it. Their parents have never heard of it. So in developing this game into one of our games, it was an essential piece of us working with our elders to say, hey, is this something that we can even do? We know the moccasin game is a men's game. How can we do this? So it was only with the support of those elders that we were able to bring these games to fruition. And what they told us was, and we went with tobacco. That's what we do. We go with tobacco, and and they didn't give us an immediate answer, but they came back and said, this is not the moccasin game, and it's not. It's got a whole different foundation of rules, but it's a teaching tool. They told us to expose our youth and non-natives to our traditions, and then if they want to learn more about those traditional ways, they can seek that out with elders as well.
Wow. That's awesome. And that's great how you have that lined up to be able to come back and do, this is kind of the version I played, and talking to elders. That's so important too. It's interesting that, it would be wonder, like in the last 500 years of colonization, how many different things we would have if we were left alone. How many maybe different clans, maybe some clans would go away. and the dinosaur clan would go away. I'm just kidding, that, but it's interesting to kind of think about that. But it's also great to hear elders thinking things through that are keeping things sacred, but also within our community, and then also being able to promote and support your games too.
It was one of the things that took me by surprise probably the most. I wasn't expecting the response that I got from the elders. I really thought that this was not going to be something I was going to be able to do. But we're doing this because we're fearful of losing our ways,
Yeah.
and it just really validated and brought warm places in my heart to see those elders looking through it through that lens. And I don't want to say giving us permission, but essentially giving us permission to do what we were doing.
Well, let me ask you about the art, because I know we were at the Shakopee winter party and had your product there. And one of the things that we were able to do is open up one of the packs of playing cards. And once we did that, people gobbled up the cards, and it was interesting too. We even sold the pack that we opened for a discount to someone at the very end because of the beautiful art on the playing cards.
Yeah, I'm just very fortunate. Like I said, I've worked in community my whole professional career. I'm all about relationships. So I'm always trying to build relationships. And we have just been so fortunate to have Native artists, really good Native artists. And we also try to really work with up and coming Native artists as well. But Bill Breen does a lot of our work. He's so talented and so generous with his work. And the talented Chelsea Smith just does beautiful work for us. So I'm all about relationships, and we work pretty much exclusively with Native artists, and their work really sells our games for us.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. There's how many different artists are you working with, and how many like different sets of playing cards would you have with different artists?
Yeah, and essentially, I work with three main ones: Nicole Bean, Chelsea Smith, and Bill Breen. Um, but like I said, one-off projects. I'm always looking to increase our artists and bring in up and coming. We do have an Ojibwe playing deck of cards, and we've just come out with our Dakota playing deck of cards that are just beautifully represented by Chelsea Smith. Bill Breen
Mm.
has done all of our work for our Miigwech and our Beneshiag, our contemporary games, and our puzzles and memory tiles.
It's interesting. We just talked about Bill yesterday, with State Representative Heather Keeler and I, and before he was, I don't know if the word taking off, we were at Dayton's, and she brought down personally his prints that he had done, and along with the story about how he, was doing it on his iPad with his finger while his wife was sick, and that whole story. And again, it is about building relations, and we have a small community, and it's those names that you mentioned as artists, I do know and I've heard, and Bill is kind of a special place in my heart because I've been working with him for like 5 years when it came to his art too at the Native Roots Trading Post.
Yeah, and so I just reached out to him because I seen his art and I loved it. But building those relationships, he lost his wife and I lost my wife, and
Yeah.
through those connections, it just built the friendship. And I just really, really appreciate the work that he's done for us. And when we started, starting a business, you don't have a huge cash flow of money. He really worked within our budget, and he's just an amazing guy. And I'm just so blessed to have that relationship with him.
Yeah, just saw him at Shakopee's powwow, and it was great to see him. And very humble guy, and he's doing it, and he's a true artist that's in the community, and it's so great to hear how he supports the community too with your endeavor. That's awesome. Hey, so what message would you like to share with parents, caregivers, and people listening about this culturally rich environment that children's growth and development through your games? What would you like to tell them, if they're a little skeptical? Or I know the proof's in the pudding when you're tabling across Turtle Island and people come up and see them and touch them, but what would you like people to know about these games and how they help people?
Well, play is the most natural way to learn. It builds problem-solving skills, communication. Even if you look at studies, it builds the capacity 95% to retain what you learn. And we see it all the time. It brings people into the table that really might not want to come in. It's just fun. I think increasing awareness of our culture and language, especially through Turtle Island, but Minnesota here for our non-natives, it's important for people to know about the people they're sharing this land with. And we have a cribbage board we're coming out with. And, at a minimal, it has all of the 11 different tribal nations here. So people, as they play, that can get embedded in their psyche. I think that's one of the most important things that non-natives can do is know the different tribal nations out of Minnesota.
Well, that's a great point, and I think with the way education is now, and how things are getting whitewashed, and there is a big group of people that do want to know. They listen to progressive radio stations like we're on, and want to know, and that's why it's important, your work of what you're doing. Tony, do you mind giving your website again and email, and we're going to let you go, and I really appreciate you coming on, and I'm going to see you Sunday.
Yeah, definitely. I'm so happy. Nashke.com, NASHKE.com. Check that out on our Facebook and our website. I just appreciate the opportunity. Come out and talk about our mission. Chimigwich.
Always great to see you. Thank you for all you do. This has been Native Roots Radio signing off. We're still here. We are the 7th generation.
Thanks for listening to the Little Moments Count radio podcast in partnership with community radio stations throughout Minnesota. You can find the Little Moments Count radio podcast wherever you get your podcasts and at littlemomentscount.org/podcast.